Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride are my two co-hosts, Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How we doing today, guys?
Very good.
Heidi ho out there, everybody.
All right. The first week of games are in the books. A lot of interesting games that we had this past week. We had an overtime game. I think Mitch might have commented earlier that there was a lot of kickers that were missing field goals, a lot of people with butterfingers, fumbling the ball. So I think we pretty much had a little bit of everything this week. So
And
uh,
kids being blocked.
yep, kicks being blocked. So we had a sprinkle of everything. So we're gonna go ahead and run through these games. Our middle segment, we're going to talk about something that Mitch had posted on the forum. Some of you guys might like it, some of you might not. We're going to kick that around a little bit, and then we are going to go into the week 2 game. So, if you guys are ready, here we go. The first one on the list, we have our champs, New York Jets, hosting Indianapolis, and um, Jets do what they always do. Ended up taking this game 46-21. We are going to start with you, Mitch.
Well, the Jets are on a mission this year, Mark. I think they're wanting to go back to back,
Uh huh.
starting off with this 46-21 victory. No, all seriousness, good win, uh, pretty dominant win. And I would say, for Indianapolis, probably the bright spot there was their running game. They had a couple of rushers, that hit over 50 yards apiece there. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty much dominance by the Jets.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
There was one telling factor about this game. The Jets called very few pass short right and pass medium right plays, very few third down plays. It's because their offense was so effective in the first two downs, they didn't need to call many third down plays.
Interesting. Did not. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when they did, they were 10 of 13, so it didn't
Yeah.
matter.
It didn't matter.
So,
Yeah. Also Jones made was player of the week too. So for the league,
yes,
so
he did.
he
Yes, he did.
yep, player of the game and
Like
the
I said,
week.
just total dominance.
Yep. Next game we have is New England going into Jacksonville to play the Jags, and Coach Mox walked away with a 28-21 victory. Dean.
Now, this is a bit closer than I expected. Jacksonville played them pretty tough and only lost by a single touchdown. And New England's passing game was pretty solid, 73% completions, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. I think that kind of set the tone for the game. But, I'm sure the New England coaching staff probably would say that they wish the defense had played a little better.
Yep. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I think the big story in this game was Captain Kirk, getting hurt, and Trey Lance having to come in, and he did not do well. And so that's no surprise to Dean. He was one of five coming in off the bench there, but similar. I was it was a surprisingly entertaining game. I will say that it was nice to see Gerard Evans, back starting for New England. I've have history with him back when I was the Atlanta Falcons, so it was nice to see him getting a starting nod and winning Player of the Week. But we'll see. Maybe New England's going to put something together this year and get themselves back in playoff contention. So we'll see.
All right. Next game we have Minnesota going into LA to play the Chargers, but the Chargers spoiled that party and walked away with a 19-15 victory. Mitch, what do you have?
Well, Steve keeps trying to find somebody to replace Kaiser, and I think maybe he's finally decided the heck with it. I'm just keeping Kaiser. He won Player of the Game. Led a big win, big divisional win. I mean, this I know it's only week one, but this game here will end up, I'm sure, having an impact one way or another on the playoff picture at the end of the season. And so, congratulations to LA, and I get to host Minnesota here this upcoming week. So I'm sure they're going to be fired up and ready to get their first win of the season.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I had picked the Chargers to win and cover in this game, and the spread was 4.5. And look what happens. The Chargers win by 4 points. They miss covering the spread by just, well, half a point, but you can't score 4.5, so they'd have to have won by 5. But it was an important win, though, and it is an important divisional game. They start off 1-0, and, in that division, any single game could ultimately make the difference of who wins the division, who gets a wild card spot, or who would be playing golf on week 17.
All right. Next game we have Kansas City hosting Pittsburgh, and KC walking away with a 38-31 victory. Dean, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, I noticed one stat that's really interesting. Pittsburgh went for 4th down 3 times, and they made all of them. And they passed a bit more than they usually do. They had 288 yards of passing, and that allowed them to keep it close. But ultimately, the defense gave up 7 more points than their offense scored, and Kansas City won by a touchdown. But it was a pretty high-scoring game. That's 69 points total over the whole game. The time of possession was fairly even, so it was very competitive, tough game, and Kansas City, being the home team, happened to score enough to win the game in front of the home crowd.
All right, Coach Grawl, how'd your team do this week? What's your take on your team's performance?
Well, I think it was that extra conditioning program that I put the team through really helped us in the second half. I know in the first half, Pittsburgh had us, honestly, they had us on our heels in the first half. I think they scored 21 points in the second quarter, and I was scratching my head a little bit. But like I said, that extra conditioning program really helped us in the second half of the game. We were able to kind of get it a little bit under control, but hats off to Pittsburgh. Good start to the season, and I expect them to give a lot of teams trouble this year.
All right. Next game, Washington hosting the New York Giants to kick off the season, and Washington walked away with a 27-10 victory. Mitch.
Well, I can't even talk right now, Mark.
Take your time. Take your time.
So goes. It's this homemade frappuccino I got over here. But so goes Saquon. So go the Giants. And this week, Saquon only had 10 carries for 53 yards, which is fine on average. But 28 of those 53 were on one run. So if you slow down Saquon, the Giants tend not to have much success, and this is what the Redskins did this week. It's not like the Redskins, blew the doors off offensively, but I will say they did get the running game going. But even though Kyler Murray won Player of the Game with a whopping 163 yards passing, but it was a Redskins. I would say a typical Redskins win. Tough, grind it out, suffocate your opponent, and win usually by double digits. So that's my thoughts.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, the running game was pretty effective for the Redskins, and if I remember from watching the game, Washington got some big gains on some of those running plays with like toss sweep plays and outside runs. And the running game was pretty effective. And as a team, they averaged 5.8 yards per rush, which is pretty solid. And that's basically what helped them win this game, in addition to, what Mitch said about the Giants running game. And neither team really passed a whole lot. It's not that they didn't pass well. They just didn't pass a whole lot. 26 attempts on one side and 28 on the other. So Washington did have a little bit of an edge in time of possession with 34 minutes and 13 seconds. So it's that's often the way Washington wins, and but the defense is pretty stingy, only allowing the Giants to score 10 points.
All right. Next game, we have our overtime game of the week. We had New Orleans hosting Atlanta, and in a thrilling game, Atlanta walked away with a 23-17. We're going to start again with Mitch.
All right. Well, I'll say this. It was nice to see a Benny Snell sighting. I know he had disappeared for a little while, but it looks like he has reappeared. So a big 131-yard game for Benny. He was running all up and down the field there against the Saints. But the thing that stood out to me is third down defense for both teams was excellent. I think if you actually watch the game, you notice that those third downs it really didn't make as big of a difference because I mean both teams had mid-20s first downs, and only 4 of those or 5 of those came from total from third down conversion. So definitely we're making some yardage on first and second down, but I think both teams had some trouble times in the red zone out there. So that's my thought.
All right. Coach, give us an assessment
Yeah,
of your team and your victory.
we had 17 points in regulation at each team before going to overtime. And if I remember right, the score is 17-10. And I don't know if it was a turnover and downs or what it was, but the Saints got the ball back, and that was a key situation where my defense didn't get the job done, and they were able to tie the game and go into overtime. And the Saints got the first possession, and it looked like it was going to be a replay of the Kansas City game last year with that guy returning it all the way for a touchdown, but then someone finally tackled him. And then on that possession, the Saints defense, that might have been the time when the Saints actually kicked a field goal and missed it in overtime, which allowed Atlanta to get back on offense and drive downfield and score. But there were, I think, a few punts traded in between because it was near the end of the overtime period when that score was put in the end zone. So over games are always tough games, but you'd rather win them than lose them, of course. So I think there's a number of things that both teams can look at and certainly wish they had done better, and that will always be true with an overtime game.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, how are you able to scare their kicker? The Saints kicker was 1 for 4 in field goal attempts out there. That ended up being the difference in the game. How did your special teams get in his head?
Maybe I don't know that they did. Maybe his kicker was just having a bad day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Because you're right. He did go 1 for 4.
Yeah.
He made a 43-yard kick, and I don't remember the length of. I think a couple of them were fairly short and missed them. My kick was 1 for 2, made a 39-yard kick. So.
Right. Well, speaking of missing kicks, hey Mark, you want to go to the next game?
Yeah. So next game we have Detroit going into Seattle. I've looked at this game when it was first posted, and then we looked at it again yesterday as a group. And Detroit ended up leaving with a 16-13 victory. I'm going to have the guys start, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in later. We are going to start with Dean on this.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a game that Seattle could have won. There were some missed opportunities. There was the interception in the end zone, and it looked like Seattle was about to score and go ahead. I think there were a couple of field goals that were missed, and there were definitely some opportunities where Seattle could have won. And I'm sure with addressing some of those issues, Seattle is going to be competitive this season. And but it was a close game. It only ended up being a margin of 3 points. So I think both teams definitely can look at this game and look at areas that they also need to work on.
Yep, Mitch. What you got?
Well, I think this game was sponsored by Butterfingers because there were 5 fumbles in this game. Now, 4 were by Detroit, which you would think, oh my goodness, Detroit had 4 fumbles. Man, I bet Seattle was going to stomp all over these guys. But Seattle couldn't recover only one of those fumbles, and unfortunately, the one fumble that Seattle had ended up turning into a touchdown for Detroit. So yeah, that the Zach Wilson interception in the end zone, those couple of missed field goals, not be able to get on those fumbles. Yeah, this game could have been a completely different story. But I think, Mark, you need to talk to the head of the air conditioning in the Kingdom because in a dome stadium, both teams combined 0 for 3 on field goals. So I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, I think you need to check into that, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. I looked at that and um, I won't tell you guys what was said on here when I initially looked at it. With the 4 fumbles, I think 3 of them were, I think 2 or 3 of them was like deep in their end, and I just couldn't get them. And the one that I had, one fumble I had on my end, I think the next play they ended up scoring, had the touchdown that was, or the interception in the end zone. So it's just like um, Detroit played a good game, but we also shot ourselves in the foot. There was plenty of opportunities that we left out there on the table that we should have been able to look at and capitalize on. Good game all around by both teams, but there was mistakes that need to be polished up on both ends. That was definitely a mistake riddled game. So. Next game we have is San Francisco hosting Chicago, and Chicago taking this game 36-14. Mitch.
And this looked a lot like the Jets Indianapolis game. Chicago pretty much dominated every aspect of it, offense, defense, special teams. Hey, Chicago actually made both of their field goal attempts. So, congratulations to Justin for figuring out how to do that. Complete dominance. No surprise. Chicago is probably going to be pretty good again. That's my hot take for the season.
Okay. Dean, what you got?
Yeah, what I see in this game is the Cardinals beat the 49ers at their own game. They dominated time of possession with 38 minutes and 38 seconds. They ran the ball for 262 yards. McFarland had 9.2 yards per carry. Johnson had 4.9 yards per carry. Williams had 4.7. Just overall, very solid passing game. Sam Darnold didn't pass a whole lot, but he did it fairly well, completing 68% of his passes, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Now, you look at the 49ers, on the other hand, you wonder if the 49ers are have been trying to reinvent themselves as a bit more of a passing team with Joe Burrow a quarterback. And the running that San Francisco did was fairly good overall. They just didn't do as much of it. The 49ers used to lead the league many seasons in rushing. You look at this game, and their top 3 running backs had a total of 12 carries for decent averages overall. But the total team had 15 carries. That's not a whole lot. Whereas the Cardinals ran the ball 45 times. It's 3 times as much rushing. So you don't expect to see that from the 49ers.
Yep, I agree. I definitely agree on that. So, last game that we have closing out week 1, we have Anaheim going to Vegas to go for victory and to spend some money at the casinos. And they probably bet on themselves because they won this game 19-13. Dean, what you got?
Well, this is a battle between 2 of the 3 of our newest coaches in the league. And our newest coach, Shuggy in Anaheim, came out 6 points ahead on this game. And it was a tough game. Both teams played pretty well in defense. And the other thing I noticed Many of the games last season, the Raiders would look pretty good and get a lead in the first half, and then their offense seemed to not do very well in the second half. And I noticed that happened in this game as well. So I'm sure that's that the coaching staff in Las Vegas will be looking to address in future games this season.
All right, Mitch, let's go ahead and wrap this up. What you got?
Yeah, well, Brees Hall went crazy for the Raiders. I mean, 98 yards and 11 carries. Um, probably need to get the ball in his hands a little bit more, but just overall, a very sluggish game. I mean, both teams, combined, average, I think, what was this? Anaheim had 63 plays and Las Vegas had 54 plays. So, not just a lot of grinding it out. The big story of this game, though, is, or Anaheim, Riley Patterson, kicker, 4 for 4. Yes, 4 for 4 on field goals. So 12. The kicker almost beat Las Vegas by himself. That'd have been 13-12,
Mm.
even if they didn't score the touchdown. So congratulations to Riley Patterson for giving us all hope that somehow or another we might be able to get the kicking game going and make it impact. So, but congratulations to Suge Knight for his first victory.
All right. Definitely, that was something to bring back faith in the kickers. So, because a lot of kickers let a lot of teams down. So, as we wrap up the week one games, we are going to go ahead and pivot over to the middle segment here, moving at a pretty decent clip. So, Mitch had posted. Well, first off, we were talking about the games. As you guys know, this past week's games we ran a little bit early in the week, and now we have some extra time between week one and week two games. So that kind of brought up the idea of what if we change our turning time for the PPPs, because normally we have until, or currently we have Saturday at midnight or at 11:59. So Mitch had posed the question of making it Friday at 11:59, and there's a post that's been put up, people to vote on to get your guys' idea, and we wanted to kind of stretch this out a little bit. There's pros and cons by both people. Pre-show, Mitch made up some good reasoning to go with the day before or on Friday. So we want to talk about this a little bit, and I'm going to have Mitch start off, and then Dean
Yeah,
and myself are going to chime in. So,
sure.
let's go ahead and get into this and your thoughts of this. What made you think of this idea, and your take on it.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad we're good, talking about this a little bit here. And by no means, is the poll or the question, trying to I guess putting kind of extra time constraint or hardship on folks. But as we had, like you said, this extra time, with getting the final files in, Friday or Saturday morning, whenever it was obviously earlier, and having, both days of the weekend available to, find time to start doing planning or some prep work for, this upcoming week's game. It was like, man, this is pretty cool because, if I'm, got all the final files here Saturday morning, got some time here, I can, put a little prep time in here, watch one of the, college games, do a little prep work. If I've got other stuff I got to go do later on, that's fine. Well, guess this Sunday I can come back, probably find some time on Sunday, to work on a few things here and there, and then hopefully a big chunk of or at least a big chunk of what I want to do from a prep standpoint is kind of done. And then I'm just can kind of, as I find time during the week, kind of tweak it and, tinker around with it, etc. And then, yeah, by Friday night, yeah, or heck, maybe even a little earlier, turn it in. But the big thing was like, man, if I could have both days of the weekend, where if I find time to do some extra planning, focus it on one game versus right now. you might end up Saturday, you might still be working on the current week's game, and then Sunday, oh, now I'm going to go on the next week. You're basically splitting your weekend between two games, and so that's kind of where the thought came from. And so I was curious to see if others, what y'all thought before, I guess officially, quote unquote, proposing it up to Charlie and Rich for a house for official house vote or whatever. But that's where it came from. Just trying to find a way to have both days of the weekend to dedicate towards one game's preparation versus potentially splitting it between two. So that's it, Mark.
All right, Dean, are you for or against it? What's your opinion on this?
I think the idea makes sense. I generally get my stuff in by Friday night anyway, and I think the reasons that Mitch outlined make sense. And for a lot of us at work, apparently the vote is 7-5, so there's 17 owners who think that there are some aspects of this that may not work for some reason. But I think it could work if it's probably be something that would have to be adopted in the off season for the following season, even if it was implemented. But just think, you could be watching Thursday night football and working on your own game plans.
Yeah.
And so it kind of works with that. It does kind of make sense to not have the weekend split for those who are kind of more on the last minute side, working on their stuff on Saturday and getting it in Saturday night. And then the game gets played later on Saturday night, the final files get released. And then, people are inclined to just immediately jump in and start working on the following week's stuff on Sunday. At least in this case, it means you do that a day earlier and spend possibly the whole weekend, maybe even by sometime on Sunday, you may even make enough progress that you might have your stuff done and ready to go, and just kind of take it easy for the week and turn in your stuff on Friday if it worked that way. But it's one of those things that if like 2/3 of the team owners were in favor of this and voting for it, if we're emulating the NFL, and as I understand it, when the NFL team owners make rules changes, it's generally by 2/3 vote, and if something doesn't get to 2/3, it doesn't pass, and they don't do it. So it kind of makes sense if something is so divided that it would be like 9 teams in favor of it and 8 teams against it, and someone votes present or doesn't vote, and it doesn't indicate a solid majority. But in this case, it's 7-5 right now, so that's 12 votes. The 6 team owners who haven't voted, that could still go either way. So those of you who haven't voted, please visit the forum and read all the messages about this and participate in the poll that Mitch put up. And this is not an official poll, of course. It's just kind of a survey to see what people think about the idea.
Yeah.
It's a straw poll. It's a straw poll.
Well, I'll comment on this also. Add my little 2 cents because Mitch and Dean, those two are definitely the early birds. I'm like the late riser because there's times where I'll send mine in, on Saturday, either at Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. On the on the forum, I voted against it initially because, for I think what kind of weighs into it also is what do people have going on during the week if they can get it done during the week. What's their schedule like? Some people may get home late, have a day shift but get home late. I'm one of those individuals. So it kind of takes a little bit out of me in trying to get everything done. That's why I'm a little late on some of them. But I also see Mitch's standpoint by turning it in early. If we turn in on Friday and then I have Saturday and Sunday off, I can start getting prepped for the next week. And instead of trying to rush, a couple hours during the week, like on Monday or in this case, it'd be a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. I can have either all day Saturday or all day Sunday. So. Like I said, I voted no initially, but I see your guys's your point in it. And if it was to come up for a vote at the end of the season, because I don't think they want to implement it during the season, it'll be something that we look at the end of the season. I could be persuaded um, to change my vote from a no to a yes. But
Yeah, I think that's why I generally try to work on my stuff earlier in the week because I know many, many, many seasons ago, I on some weeks I kind of worked on stuff kind of later in the week, and you don't want to be in that situation of being there like 9 o'clock Saturday night. I know there's only a couple hours I have to turn this stuff in, and you're watching games or simming games or whatever you do, and your team isn't doing as well as you want it to, and you realize you know, I could do a lot more work on this game plan and these profiles to get them in order, but I just don't have the time. You kind of like press for time, and then you have to figure out, well, what's the best thing I can do to make these PPPs better before I have to turn them in soon. So I don't like really being in a situation where you feel like you don't have the time left because of how much time is on the clock before they're due to really make the improvements in that you believe you need to make to have a better chance of winning.
right. Well, I
Mhm.
think what it boils down to is your time management. Obviously, we all have our real lives outside of this, but then you talk about that time management. When can you invest that time during the week? Like I said, some people may get home late, during the weekday and may not, have very little time, but then you got to kind of space it out. Like I said, if I had that Saturday or that Sunday available, I see Mitch's angle as far as we turn it on Friday, then you got Saturday and Sunday. So I think what it basically boils down is to everyone looking at their schedules outside the game and see if it's feasible. If it is, I'd say yeah, let's put it up for a vote. So it's up to you guys. For those that have not voted yet, head up to the forum and put your vote in. We'd like to know, and obviously it's not binding, but it kind of gives everyone an idea of what the coaches in the league as a whole, what we're all looking at to see what we can do to make the game a little bit better and more enjoyable to all of us. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, and as I say, vote early and often.
there you go. So, all right, we're gonna pivot over to our final leg. We have the week 2 games coming up. So, also like to thank Rich for coming on last week and picking his games. Um, so, we are going to go ahead and dive right into this. First game up, we have New England hosting Indy, and we have New England with a 3.5 point spread. We're going to start with Dean this week.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with this spread. I do not view the Patriots as being favored in this game. I mean, they played pretty well last week, but they didn't dominate Jacksonville. I don't understand the spread. And Indianapolis is not going to lose 2 weeks in a row. They will come back this week after a tough game against Jets. So it's not quite a lead pipe lock. It's like almost one. Colts will win, pull off the upset this weekend.
Okay. Mitch, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm guessing that the spread is more based on home field advantage and the Colts, their play in week one. I expect them to play better, obviously against the Patriots than the Jets. But you know what? I'll go with the Patriots. I know that Mox is my biggest fan, and so I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Okay. I'm going to ride that train along line with you, and I'm going to go with the Pats, and I'm going to put the pressure on the Pats this week. I'm going to jump on the train early. They are going to be my lead pipe lock for this week. So, oh, yes, let me, before we jump in, well, we'll finish this one up. So, yeah, I have him as my lead pipe lock. So,
Am
um,
I the only one picking the Colts this weekend?
yes, sir, you
Apparently,
are. Yes,
Wow.
you are. So, um, obviously, I got to go back. So you'll see on the graphic, I got to jump back around here a little bit. So, last week's games, um, we had some good numbers here. So, um, what we had was for lead pipe locks last week. We had Mitch at 1-0. We had Dean at 0-1. I kind of let him down with the Hawks, and I ended up being 1-0 as well. So as far as for week one, Mitch was 6-3. 6-3. Dean was three. Let me see. 5-4 for the first week, and I ended up being 7-2. So I got lucky that week. So we will see how the rest of the week plays out, and going from there. So, all right. So now I had to do a little bit of cleanup there. Moving on to our next game, we have Anaheim hosting Jacksonville. That is considered a pick'em game for this week. We're going to start with Mitch.
You know what? You're going to be shocked. But I am going to go with Jacksonville, and this is going to be my lead pipe lock of the week.
Woohoo.
Jacksonville is not going to let the new coach come in and beat them. It might be the Jacksonville's only win of the season, but Jacksonville is not going to let the new coach come in and win. Jacksonville lead pipe.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
Not so fast. How many new coaches do we have come in and win the first game in the PNFL? And how many times has Jacksonville
Lost a game?
um, lost 10 or more games? For see, now I understand. I've done that enough times, but I've been in the league.
You better be careful.
No, I'm being careful, but I've been in the league longer. We'll see when Matt is in the league as many seasons as I've been, if he's matching or exceeding my number of seasons with 10 losses. But no, Shuggy's going to win this game. It should be like Rams 3.5 here. I predict by at least a field goal, maybe 2.5. Yeah, the Rams will win this game. Not a
Now, do you think it's good? Do you think the Rams will score only field goals, kind of like they did this past week, or will they score multiple touchdowns?
Oh, they'll score at least one touchdown, but
Okay.
they may give up only field goals to Jacksonville.
Yeah, gotcha.
With some missed field goals along the way for Jacksonville.
All right. Well,
Rams win.
I think on this one we're going to be split again. I am I'm going with Jacksonville as well. I think that Sugar had a good win last week, but I think Jacksonville is going to put up a good fight, and is not going to drop this one. So I'm going with Jacksonville this week.
Right, don't let us down, Matt. We're counting on you.
That's right.
Yeah, you're all the underdogs in these first two games, so we're going to see how that works.
There you go. Next game, we have our champs, last year's champs, this past season's champs, hosting the champ from 2 seasons ago. We have the Jets hosting the Chargers. That's a 9.5 point spread for the Jets. We are going to start with Dean.
Yeah, recovery is going well for the Chargers. No hangover this season. I think the Chargers are on a mission. They definitely want to get back to that Super Bowl after not making it last season. This is going to be an upset. The Chargers have beat the Jets before, and they can do it again, and they will do it again. Chargers upset in this game. Might be close, but Chargers win.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
And the AFC Championship game between these two was really close. Really good game. I think Jets win this, but I think 9.5 might be a little high. So I'm going to go in Jets, but probably by less than 9.5.
All right. I have to concur with you again. I mean, it seems as if it's Mark and Mitch taking on Dean. I'm going with the Jets on this one as well. I think it's going to be a much closer game than the 9.5, and I know that the Chargers have beaten the Jets before, but um, I don't think it's going to happen this week. So going with the Jets. Next game we have Kansas City hosting their division rival Minnesota. They are giving Kansas City 6.5. We're going to start with Dean on this one again.
Yeah, this week I'm jumping on the Barney train and riding it. I'm predicting an upset here. I think, again, Minnesota won't start the season 0-2 either, so they're going to be fired up about this game and definitely working overtime to get the first win of the season. This is, this is an upset for the Vikings. It is also a lead pipe lock.
Ooh, little added pressure on that one. All right, Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I'm not surprised. I don't think Dean's picked me to win a game in 3 seasons, but it's all right. It's okay.
I picked you.
Um, but it's all good. No, I expect a big game here. Uh, Vikings Chiefs always, or when I play Barney, it's always a tough game. So who knows what the final score will end up being. But I can't bet against myself. You know that. But I guarantee I'll get the best from the Vikings for sure. So looking forward to the game.
All
You're going
right.
to cover that spread?
I just said I have no idea what the score is going to be. So, so
So everyone,
hey, when Barney and I play, I mean, it could end up being 6-3. It might be 31-28. Who knows? Who knows?
No idea. All right. Well, I'm splitting the baby again. I am going with Kansas City on this one. By being interacting with Mitch quite a bit, I kind of get an insight of how hard he preps. As you know, everyone in the league as a whole, you're trying to get your stuff together, and Mitch is saying, "I got my stuff done. I'm doing my stuff. I'm doing all my sims." So he does his homework very methodically. So I'm going with Kansas City on this one. Next game
Hey,
we
hey,
have,
Mark.
yeah,
If I win this game and go 2-0, do I officially get I'm on a mission next week, or is that gonna have to wait till maybe week 5 or 6?
no, you'll go on the mission.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right. Nah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just I just want to get a little extra motivation. That's
yeah.
all.
You'll be on the mission. Oh,
oh, that'll end up being more as a
we
mission
have
than
a well. I was gonna mention that after we go through the picks, but we have a surprise coming up for you guys on week 3. That's all I'll say. Next game we have Detroit hosting Las Vegas, and they are giving Detroit 4.5. Mitch.
Well, if Detroit can hold on to the ball and not give it to Butterfingers McGee, I think they have a very good shot of winning this game and covering the spread. So I'm gonna go with Detroit.
All right, Dean, what do you got?
I think the Raiders are going to bring cases of Butterfingers to the game and pass them out to the Lions players. This is going to be an upset. The Raiders are going to win this game. They also will not go 0-2 to start the season. Raiders win.
Okay. Well, I had one team picked earlier, and I think I'm going to go ahead and buck this one. I'm going to call for an upset as well, and I'm going to take Vegas on this one. I was going to go with Detroit, but I'm going to switch over to Vegas. Um, I think they're going to put up a good fight, and I think I'm going to send some Butterfingers over there as well. So, uh, next game we have the Giants hosting Atlanta. So, and they are giving Atlanta 6.5. Mitch.
Well, you know what? I look at this game and I think this game could play a uh, big part in the NFC wild card race later in the season. I know it did last year, later in the season when these two teams played. I just get this gut feeling that the Falcons are going to want it a little bit more. I don't think the Giants are going to lose by 6.5, so I think it's going to be closer than the 6.5. But you know what? I'm going to take the Falcons in this one.
All right. Coach Chambers, what do you have?
Yeah, I think my team still remembers what happened in the last game we played the Giants last season. So we're going up to New Jersey to play the Giants, of course, and as always, we're going to be leaving 2 tickets at the will call window for Jerry Glanville, and we're going to play a solid game and manage to come out ahead. Not sure if the spread will be covered, but we'll score more than the other team, and that will be enough to get a W.
All right. I am going to ride. This is the first agreement that we've had this week. I'm going with Atlanta as well. I think Atlanta's going to put up a good show. And yeah, I think they're the spread. Um, I don't like the spread. I think I'll put a little extra pressure on Dean. I think it's going to be higher. It could be maybe 8, 10. No, not 10.
So I'm thinking 4. I'm thinking
You
4
thinking
points.
4?
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 21-17,
Yeah.
28-24 kind of game. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I'll
thinking.
revise it. I say, yeah, 4 point. I give it a
Yeah.
4 pointer. Yeah, definitely.
17-13,
Yeah, something,
something like
yeah,
that.
low. Okay.
Yeah.
Next game, we have Washington hosting San Francisco. They're giving Washington 7.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think remember what I said earlier about San Francisco playing Chicago, and the Redskins, as we saw in Week 1 games, have been very good at running the ball and playing pretty solid, balanced offense. I think the Redskins will do that this week, and I'm not saying that the Giants will be. I mean, that the 49ers will be no shows. They'll put in a solid effort and come ready to play, but they'll be the visiting team, and I think Washington wants to get back to this season too. So Redskins will win and cover this game.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Ooh, well, after the 49ers game this past weekend, they get the Redskins, so it doesn't get really any easier for them. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Redskins as well.
All right. Well, I will go in concurrence with you guys and keep it simple. I will go with Washington as well. Last 2 games that we have, Chicago hosting New Orleans. They are giving Chicago 13.5. Mitch, what do we got?
Ooh, that's a big spread. That's a big spread, but obviously the Cardinals, they showed out in Week 1. I think well, I know the Cardinals are going to win this game. The Cardinals are going to win, but it's going to be less than 13.5. Saints are a solid team. I like what Perez has done there with the Saints, but I'm going to go with the Cards.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
I think the only open question in Chicago this week is, and they have the luxury to have this question, are they going to start Sam Darnold at quarterback, or are they going to start Justin Fields again? Because regardless of which one they start, the Cardinals are definitely winning this game by 2 touchdowns. So this is another winning cover.
All right. Third game in a row. We're all in concurrence. I'm going
Have you
with.
had your lead pipe lock yet, Mark?
Yes, I did. My lead pipe lock was New England over Indy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like an hour
That
ago.
was an
Okay.
hour ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah. Okay.
late last night we put that. Led by
So,
Rock for the Patriots.
yep.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
as
Gotcha.
as for this game, I'm gonna go with Chicago as well. I'm gonna ride that right along with you guys. So last game for week 2, it is Pittsburgh hosting Seattle. They are giving Pittsburgh 4.5. Dean.
Well, let me start with Pittsburgh. This is a pretty solid team. I think going to be very competitive this year. Solid running game. They're getting better in the passing game. But I think Seattle is going to step it up this week, and I think Seattle also will not start 0-2 on the season. So I'm seeing a Seahawks upset here.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Ooh, mm. You know I want to pick you, Mark. You know I want to pick you, but
Hey,
the Steelers team
do
I
what you
play,
got to do. Do what you got to
the
do.
Steelers team that I played, playing against them and then watching that Detroit Seattle game, just based on what I saw in Week 1, I've got to go with the Steelers. I'm sure both teams will have tightened some things up here for Week 2, so I definitely think you have a more than a puncher's chance. But I'm going to go with the Steelers just based on Week 1 performance.
All right, you going with that spread also?
Uh, yeah, I think it'll be less than a touchdown. So yeah, probably somewhere in that 3 to 5 range. Yeah.
All right. So, all right, guys, we have wrapped up the week 2
What about
games.
you? Are you going to win that
Oh,
game or?
well, I think it goes without saying, go Hawks.
Oh, okay.
You
All right.
know, it goes without
Okay.
saying. I mean, there's some things that we need to tighten up, and some things we need to kind of shift around a little bit. But
Yeah.
like you said, you never bet against your own team. So
That's right.
for me,
I,
it
I,
goes
I
without.
I would advise not calling a medium pass inside the 5 this week. That'd be my
I did that
Yeah,
once last season. I picked my team to lose, and I actually won that game that week.
I'm not jinxing myself that way. No, not gonna do it.
yeah, maybe call shorter passes inside the
I'm not gonna
5.
be considered a Pete Rose in the league. So no, we're not doing
Maybe
that.
that was a reverse jinx.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could do that, but nah, I can't do it. One other thing that wanted to mention, a little bit of homework here. I know that Steve was sent a message out to you guys as far as getting the highlights in. When you guys, I don't think he's gotten anything in from you guys. I know that I kind of dropped the ball as well. As far as getting the highlights out there, this is something that we're doing for you guys, so it kind of makes our job a little bit easier here. If you send that in to Steve, what you would do is when you get your game tapes, just pick the game numbers or the play numbers. So for my case, I'd say Detroit, Seattle, play number 20, play number 25, play number 30. So in a sense, you guys are making your highlights. And then we go through and have our discussions. We can get your highlights up there. I know some guys like it. It does take some effort to go through 9 games and how many ever plays it is within those 9 games and pick out certain ones. So some shows I used
I
to
don't
have.
even know which ones they are. Like if it's a play and you say you know that play in with 10 minutes left in the third quarter where my quarterback had a 35-yard touchdown pass. I mean, how do we know which play that is?
Right. So just download the game tapes. If you don't, I mean, or if you
I
don't
mean
know
the
how to, it's
VCR,
right
right?
there. Yep.
Yeah.
Download the VCR game tapes, pull your game up,
Yeah.
and then when you run your highlights, they're all numbered. Just pick the numbers up and pick the game that you're at, numbers, and then send it in to Steve, and then Steve can go ahead and pull those game plays up, and he'll go ahead and get those pulled down and send them over to me, and then we can add them in there. So again, we enjoy what we're doing, but we're trying to also make sure that you guys enjoy listening to it and looking at it, and adds a little bit of excitement to the league as well. So
You know what, Mark? I bet if we actually, if you had the entire weekend to prepare for your games, it would make it a lot easier during the week to edit the show stuff, wouldn't it?
as I told you, if it comes up for a vote, I could be persuaded.
Just
There's
saying.
there's
Just
that Mitch.
saying. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at 54 minutes into the podcast, and now he decides to show up, Dean. He's been all low key the whole time. Now he decides to show up. There we go.
No, I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
Just saying.
Okay.
Just saying.
Okay.
All
So
right. All right.
duly
So,
duly noted. we got
All
that.
right.
So
All right.
all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of house cleaning there or housekeeping there. So yeah, you guys get those in, and that'll be good. So we have something else that we're kind of working on. We can't really give much more detail into it now, but we do have something that we may have a little surprise for you guys for week 3. Something nice. So we'll just leave it at that. So as we come to wrap up the week 2 show, going around the table one last time, Dean, what do you have?
Well, just say good luck to everyone in the games this week. And, 0-1 teams are looking to win their first win, and 1-0 teams are looking to start 2-0. And no doubt there'll be some teams that are 1-1. And let's just hope there won't be any tie games.
There you go. Mitch, what you got before you take us home?
No, I good first week. So lots of exciting games. I don't think those defensive changes that folks were worried about. I really didn't notice anything, egregious from those play changes. So we'll see how that goes in week 2. But I think the only thing left now is to go vote on the poll on the forum, and let's get it.